Have you ever noticed how differently you behave at work compared to when you're at home? Or how your personality seems to shift when you're with different groups of friends? Today, we're diving deep into one of Carl Jung's most profound discoveries, the concept of the persona, or the social masks we wear, to navigate our daily lives. Let's start with a fascinating observation Jung made during his years of psychiatric practice. He noticed that every single person, without exception, develops a kind of public face they present to the world. Jung called this the persona, taking the term from ancient Greek theater, where actors wore masks to play different characters. But unlike those temporary theatrical masks, our social masks become so familiar that we often forget we're wearing them. Think about your own life for a moment. You probably act one way with your boss, another way with your parents, and yet another way with your closest friends. Jung discovered that this isn't fake or insincere. It's actually a necessary part of human social development. These different versions of ourselves help us function in society, build relationships, and achieve our goals. Jung found something remarkable through his work with patients. The persona develops naturally during childhood, as we learn what behaviors get positive responses from our parents, teachers, and peers. It's like we're all participating in an elaborate social dance, and the persona is our way of learning the steps. We discover which parts of ourselves to emphasize and which to keep private, all in service of fitting in and getting along with others. But here's where Jung's insights get really interesting. While the persona is necessary, he observed that it can become problematic when we over-identify with it. Think of someone who's built their entire identity around their job title. What happens when they retire? Or consider a person who's always been the funny one in their friend group. What happens when they're going through a difficult time and don't feel like making jokes? Jung documented numerous cases where people experienced severe psychological distress because they'd become trapped by their personas. They'd spent so many years being what others expected them to be that they'd lost touch with their authentic selves. This led Jung to one of his most important conclusions. While we need our social masks to function in society, we must also remember that they're just masks, not our true identity. Let's explore how the persona typically develops. Jung noticed that young children don't have much of a persona. They're remarkably authentic in their expressions and behaviors. But as they grow older, they begin to learn that certain behaviors are rewarded, while others are discouraged. A child who's constantly praised for academic achievement might develop a persona centered around being the smart one. Another child who gets attention for athletic ability might build their persona around being the athlete. Jung discovered that the persona isn't just about behavior. It also includes our appearance, speech patterns, and even our body language. Think about how differently a person might dress and carry themselves in a job interview versus at a casual weekend barbecue. These aren't conscious deceptions. They're adaptive responses to different social situations. One of Jung's most profound insights was that the persona serves as both a bridge and a barrier. It's a bridge because it helps us connect with others and navigate social situations smoothly. But it's also a barrier because it can prevent our true selves from being seen and acknowledged. This is why some people feel deeply lonely, even when they're surrounded by others. Their persona is connecting, but their authentic self remains hidden. Here's something fascinating Jung observed. The stronger and more rigid someone's persona becomes, the more powerful their shadow, their repressed, unconscious self, grows as well. It's like a psychological balancing act. The more we try to present a perfect face to the world, the more we push our imperfections into the shadows of our psyche. Jung found that many psychological problems stem from an overdeveloped persona. When we invest too much energy in maintaining our social mask, we can become exhausted, anxious, and disconnected from our true feelings and needs. He saw this particularly often in people who worked in roles that required them to maintain a very specific public image, like teachers, clergy, or public figures. But Jung didn't suggest we should abandon our personas entirely. That would be neither possible nor desirable. Instead, he advocated for developing a healthy relationship with our social masks. This means being able to use them when necessary, while staying connected to our authentic selves. It's like being a skilled actor who can play many roles while never forgetting who they really are. Jung noticed that midlife often brings a crisis related to the persona. As people reach their 40s or 50s, they might suddenly feel that their carefully constructed social identity doesn't fit anymore. This isn't a sign of failure. It's actually an opportunity for growth and greater authenticity. It's the psyche's way of saying it's time to loosen the mask and let more of our true self shine through. One particularly interesting observation Jung made was about how social media might have amplified our persona issues. While he didn't live to see the internet age, his insights about the dangers of over-identifying with our public image are more relevant than ever in a world where we're constantly curating and presenting versions of ourselves online. Jung found that healthy personality development involves learning to be flexible with our personas while maintaining a strong connection to our authentic self. This means being able to adapt our behavior to different situations without losing touch with who we really are. It's like having a wardrobe of clothes. We choose what's appropriate for each occasion, but we know that none of these outfits defines us completely. Here's a practical insight from Jung's work. When we feel extremely uncomfortable or inauthentic in certain social situations, it might be because we're trying to maintain a persona that doesn't align well with our true self. Rather than pushing harder to fit in, these moments can be invitations to examine whether we're living authentically. Jung observed that people who maintain a healthy relationship with their persona tend to be more resilient and psychologically flexible. They can navigate different social contexts without becoming exhausted or feeling fake. They understand that their social masks are tools for interaction, not prison cells that trap their authentic self. But how do we develop this healthy relationship with our persona? Jung suggested several approaches. First, we need to become aware of our different social masks and when we use them. Second, we should regularly take time to connect with our authentic self through reflection, meditation, or creative expression. Finally, we should practice being slightly more authentic in safe social situations, gradually allowing more of our true self to show through our social masks. Jung's work reminds us that while we all need our personas to function in society, we shouldn't let them take over our entire identity. The goal isn't to eliminate our social masks, but to wear them consciously and skillfully, always remembering that beneath these masks lies our authentic self. Understanding the persona helps us navigate the complex balance between social adaptation and authentic self-expression. It reminds us that while we need our social masks, we don't have to become them. True psychological health comes from being able to play our social roles effectively while maintaining a strong connection to who we really are. So next time you notice yourself shifting into a different social role, remember Jung's insights about the persona. These masks aren't lies, they're tools for social interaction. The key is to use them consciously while staying connected to your authentic self. After all, the most fulfilling life comes not from perfect social performance, but from finding ways to let your true self shine through your social masks.